Good morning and welcome to the Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting for the 1st of June 2022. Welcome councillors, staff and public who may be viewing this via live stream. Firstly, I'd like to now open the meeting with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Okay, request for leave of absence. Councillor Shoemaker's away today, so move that be accepted. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Henson, those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you all. Councillor Duff, traditional owners, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge country and the land where we meet this morning, the Waka Waka land, and acknowledge the elders both past, present and emerging. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, councillors, we have the agenda. Any items that you feel could give rise to a conflict of interest, please disclose them now. Or if not, throughout the course of the meeting, should you have concerns, feel free to raise them. 5.1 is minutes of the previous meeting. Recommendation is that the minutes of the Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting held on the 4th of May 2022 be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder. Yes, Councillor Henson, thank you. Any issues, councillors? If not, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you all. 6.1, notice of motion, emergency after hours call service is at 27, whereby the committee has received a notice of motion from Councillor Duff, and her motion is that the committee recommend to council that when we are in a declared disaster, we change to a local model response for our after hours call service. Councillor Duff, are you intending to move that? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Henson. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In the rationale, I've put that under the current setup, when there is a disaster, such as the recent floods, because of it is often in areas across the state, the time for peak services to respond to urgent requests has been over 30 minutes. This is causing safety concerns because some of the issues are urgent, and has also caused lack of trust in the after-hours service and damage to council's reputation. So I've had people from particularly in that northern end of our region, when there's been concerns that the bridge is going under, like Marshlands Bridge is one example, and they've tried to ring the after hours and they've sat there for 30 minutes because often, and it's been happening since January, when we get into a disaster, the other areas like Gympie, and it's all over the state in some instances, peak services is being utilised by other local governments, and then there's congestion on the line, because I've spoken to CEO Mark about it, and I've also mentioned it to General Manager Meehan about the issue, and there was talk about going to a local response when that happened, so I just wanted to put that out on the table. Thank you.
Okay, further speakers? Any lights on?
Good morning.
Oh yeah, got you. Thank you, General Manager. Oh, sorry. Project Manager Meehan, thank you.
That's all right. Man of many titles, Mr Mayor. Good morning, Council. Through you, Mr Mayor. We had a look at this one, began looking at it this week. We probably, if we could, we would appreciate the opportunity to bring back a report to the next standing committee. We've pulled the peak services data yesterday as well to go through how many calls have we received. Currently in our disaster management plan, we do have this level of activation if the local disaster coordination centre is up and running. So we thought if it was possible, Mr Mayor, we could probably bring back some of those challenges that we've got there, and also I think, to be honest, it's a really a primary issue for us to talk to peak services about in their response and their capability when the state is in multiple councils being activated or under duress at that point in time. It'll give us the opportunity to do that. One of the things too, Mr Mayor, we talked about it yesterday, and if it was with council's consent, part of that report, there's been a bit of discussion about the local disaster, what the group does and the role of the chair I think there was a question on notice last week at the general, Mr. Mayor, from yourself. We would like probably the opportunity to bring all that back in a single report to clarify all those things if council was happy to do that. And we could spend probably a little bit of time to take council through how that coordination centre works, what the chair's role is, and also what your options are too if you look to obviously add additional external resources in times of disaster if that was possible.
Thank you. Councillor Duff, in light of that, would you be prepared to consider a slight change to your motion that could be recommended to council that council consider when we're in a declared disaster, that we change to a local model response for our after-hours call service, and that a report be brought to the next standing committee meeting to in relation to such. We could probably take the recommend to council out, couldn't we, Mr. CEO? Yeah, probably take that out. Thanks, Bree. Councillor Duff, Councillor Henson, over to you for your
yes,
thoughts.
Mr. Mayor, very happy to alter the recommendation as such. Thank you.
Councillor Henson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy with that. Just in relation to that we change to a local model response, we have to again there consider. We change to a local model response to consider a change.
I think we've got that. The council consider that we change is already there, is it not?
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Further speakers, Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just making sure that this won't come to the next council meeting. It'll go to the next infrastructure. Thank you.
That's correct. Yes, thank you. Okay, further speakers. Councillor Duff, any reply? Concludes the debate. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.1, welcome Councillor Jones to present your roads and drainage portfolio report at page 28.
Thanks, Mayor, and again, great pleasure to present the roads and drainage report for the month of June. Our current design and planning projects at the moment, as we currently are operating, our key projects, Maidenmore, Bunyan Mountains Road, Wengenville, the detail there is designed 85 complete. Cumbia Streetscape at Cumbia, that's the full rehabilitation of the CBD, 50% complete. George Street Car Park at Kingaroy, 70% complete. Our minor projects, Corndale Road, Memorandie, the design, these are all design stuff. So that's 10% complete. River Road, Siphon, whatever, yep, that sounds good enough. 30% complete. Leopard Court, Kingaroy, 10%. And Gordon Brook Water Storage, 40% design completed. We go into our current and planned works for June. You can see there the Blackbutt CBD. We've currently, actuals at the 21st of April that was spent was 586,000 with another 1.1 to come. Elbow Road at Merlewood, that's pavement rehabilitation works and reseal. That's well underway. Glendon Street, Markwell Street, Kingaroy Transformation Project, Kent Street, Wandai, the upgrade to the school crossing and line marking. That'll be a significant improvement for safety down there for mums and dads and their children and school teachers. Oliver Bond Street in Kingaroy, upgrade of car park, curb and channel and drainage. Went down there the other day. That's looking very, very good at the moment, and that'll be a major improvement for the senior sits that are going down there. Palmer Street East in Mergen, renewal of a section curb and channel between Perkins Street and Watt Street. That's underway, should be completed in July. Weckers Road, Rurulan, pavement again, rehabilitation works and reseal project. That should be finished by the end of this month. William Street, Kingaroy, upgrade to pedestrian crossing on William Street. That again should be completed by the end of this month. Our gravel resheeting program, you can see that it continues on Mount McEwen at Road, Riley's Road, Smiths Road, Stonelands Road, and it continues on there, Stonelands Road there, gravel and shoulder resheeting. Our patrol grading, prior to the most recent significant rainfall across the region, our interim patrol grading program had been established to allow crews to commence on roads that were unaffected by past weather events. Council's road network has again sustained damage to the unsealed network through its fourth weather event. Emergency works inspections across the network have commenced and crews are being prioritised to roads across the region. Our roadside slashing and boom mowing, you can see there a whole list of roads there, Abbeywood, Blackbutt, Blackbutt South, Brooklands, up to the Bunya Mountains, Chapinga, East Nanango, Glendon, Johnston, Kingaroy, Kinleymore, Canoon, Nanango again, and that list will continue on. A large number right across Proston, Runnymede, Sandy Ridges, Teelar, Wattle Camp and Wigton. Our completed works for noting through the month of May are the design and planning projects. The Apex Park in Kingaroy is 100% design completed. Kingaroy Hospital entrance is 100% complete. Birdie Street, Nanango, 100% complete. That is for design for water and wastewater project. Eagle Street, Nanango, also water and wastewater project, all 100% complete. Our capital works, Cumbia Road, road widening and reconstruction, that started in February and it was completed. I think it's pretty close to being complete now out there. It looks absolutely magnificent. It'll be a significant game changer for those people travelling through there. Memorandum Barkers Creek Road, upgrade to a section from unsealed to sealed standard. I was speaking to Lockie Brown in the last couple of days. He's very happy with that and certainly makes a significant safety improvement out there. Our roadside slashing, again, we go across Alice Creek, Banarkin, Blackbutt, Chapinga, Charleston, Chelmsford, Ellesmere, Gordon Brook, Highsville, Ironpot, Corcall, Memorandum, Mondure, Mount McEwen, and so on, and it keeps going on. Taromio, Teelar, Tingura, Wheatlands, Wandai and Warrulan. And if you go on to page 35 in our agenda, you see the requests by month. These are the number of requests that we've had throughout the months in regards to roads, and some large numbers there, but they've dropped off a little bit in April, May. You go over again, recently completed works. That's the Cumbia Road that I was just referring to. That looks absolutely magnificent, so a credit to the men and women that have done that job. Recent storm damage and flood response. The region was again impacted by heavy rain and flooding, resulting in a fourth activation under the jointly funded Commonwealth State Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements, DRFA, following the southern Queensland flooding on the 6th to the 20th of May. The region was activated for counter-disaster operations on the 13th of May. Council has requested activation for reconstruction of essential public assets. Council is in discussions with Queensland Reconstruction Authority, which is QRA, with an attempt to reduce the impact on Council's budget, with 4 activations currently requiring 4 trigger point payments of $212,168, which is almost $850,000. Council crews were nearing completion of emergency works under the February event. Once again, the network is being re-inspected under the May event, with all emergency works to be completed by early August 22. So far, more than 240 sites have been identified as requiring emergency works from the May event. In some instances, these sites have been repaired 3 times already following the previous events. Since the first severe weather event in November 21, more than 2,600 sites have been repaired under emergency works. One subcontractor crew continues to clear block road culverts as part of the immediate reconstruction works response. The damage assessment phase to allow the long-term restoration of essential public assets continues, however, will require checks to be made across assessments completed to date for any new damage. An external contract to complete the 16 priority roads has been awarded to Yesburg Earth Moving and commenced in early May. Works have been delayed due to the recent wet weather, and the table below we've got Burrabri Road, Gerards Road, a whole list, Edenvale South, Ironpot, Manumbar, Melrose, Old Proston, Nanango, Brooklands, Smiths Road, Springs Road, Weens and Wicks Road. A second submission containing 36 roads was recently submitted to the QRA with the approval phase nearing completion. Again, there's a whole list of the roads there, the 36 roads. If people that are online, they want to have a look, it's all up on our website. And to date, approximately $2.6 million has been spent across the 3 events. The QRA has provided grant advances and a 30% payment on the first REPA submission, totalling approximately $2.9 million. The emergency works and immediate reconstruction works claims are currently being prepared for submission to the QRA. Council has completed the additional Rackus Road inspections to further capture evidence of damage across the network, which will support DRFA submissions. A review of data is underway to identify whether any roads will need to be re-inspected due to the May event. The current works capital program and some of the operational programs such as patrol grading are being impacted, and our team are working through appropriate delivery solutions to address this in conjunction with the flood damage task. And you can see there's a few pictures of some of the damage that has been spread across our region and continues to cause us no end of issues, particularly the staff. The Blackbutt CBD Streetscape and Footpath upgrade, as of the 20th of May, the new concrete footpath is now complete within the first and second zones of works along Roy Emerson Way, Colson Street, from the intersection of Muir Street and Colson Street to Les Muller Park. Works have recommenced this week following a period of wet weather and the completion of the concrete footpath and the road pavement in the second work zone. The new concrete invert at the John Street intersection has also been installed. The Blackbutt CBD Streetscape and Footpath upgrade is on track with the original program timelines for completion. Priming of the road pavement in the second work zone will be completed this week. Asphalt servicing of the pavement in the second work zone and surface grinding of the existing concrete footpath is planned to be completed next week. And it goes on, maintain public safety. Some restrictions to vehicle parking and pedestrian access are expected. However, these impacts will be limited and allow continual business access as construction progresses along Colson Street. Invitations for offer for the proposed upgrade works with Les Muller Park are currently out to the market and close on Thursday the 26th. The Les Muller Park component of the works is proposed to be completed by the 30th of September 2022. Also, we have the Kingaroy Transformation Project. There's a few photos there. A little bit of an update. April and May have been busy months. The KTP project, Haley Street, Alford Street, Kingaroy Streets. Continue on, and there's just a few photos there for anyone that's online just to have a look if you want to. We continue on. Sorry, I've gone too far. Geez, I'm excited. Woo, pull up. Anyway, getting back there, sorry for overshooting the mark there. I'm so excited and so enthralled in what I'm saying. But can I just say that can I please ask that we get something into the paper in regards to the works that are going on with the flood damage, in regards to explaining to the people. I'm getting a huge amount of calls saying, how bad are we? We're out there, we've got staff there fixing roads, all that sort of stuff. Can we please explain to them in very layman's terms, Mark speak, if for want of a better term, keep it very simple, very basic, so that they can understand that we are only allowed to fix these roads to a certain level, and if we go any further, we're using ratepayer money and we take away all possibilities of getting any funding from the Commonwealth and federal. Because as soon as I explain it to them, they just totally understand. But before that, they were very irate, saying, what the hell are you doing out there with the machines? They're there, fix it properly while you're there. Once you explain it to them, all good and well. That these floods have an impact on our service levels that we're producing at the moment. As I said through there, our patrol grading and all that's come back. We prioritise the significant flood damage as a priority because people are travelling in very dangerous situations, and I think that's a priority for us as councillors and the council to make sure that that is fixed up to a trafficable level. Blackbutt CBD, just a quick update, that's going tremendous. Everything's going great. The trees are out down there. Have not had one complaint about the trees being removed because we've explained to them down there that they're getting new trees in there and everything's on track. The grinding's been done. And when you drive into Blackbutt from the Yarraman side now, it looks so much better, so much cleaner on that Les Muller Park corner and all that up the main street, and everybody's extremely happy. So, again, a pleasure to deliver the June roads and drainage budget portfolio, and a big congratulations and a thank you from me to our infrastructure staff, in particular the men and women, but all staff in the council that do a wonderful job to try and deliver services to our community. So thank you, and on that I'd like to move that that be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers? Councillor Elkins.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Jones, can you just tell me, you know, when they do the culvert, the pipes under their driveways, it's a resident's responsibility to clean that?
Yeah. Thank you, General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct, and we've actually got a council report a little bit later on, which Curtellin Street it is, Curtellin Crescent, which has some a little.
I've seen that one. I'm talking on going out, looking at the roads, I noticed that a lot of the damage to the roads is actually caused from driveways. And I noticed that one of the things is their pipes under their driveway is full. So I'm talking acreage, are chocked up. But a lot of these residents, when you say something to them, a lot of them are saying that when they grade the roads, a lot of them complain that the graders, that the pipes are getting blocked by the graders. So I just wondered, because it comes back as an issue for council because it does cause that damage to the road. So I just didn't know whether there was something that could be done to make sure those pipes are not blocked when that happens. So, thanks.
Thank you, councillor. Yeah, we'll look forward to having that discussion shortly, Manager. If we could, this report is on the, or feel free to address it now.
Curtail and Crescent is in relation to a sealed urban area. Certainly with the unsealed network, it's exacerbated through the fact that it is unsealed. At the end of the day, it is still, we still rely on the owners of the accesses to maintain their drainage.
But when the, do I have to stand up? But when the graders are working there, is there any way that you can sort of, I mean, they shouldn't fill those drains and block up their holes. So block up the drain, the culverts. That apparently in some situations is what's happening. So that's just if you can look at that as being a problem.
Yep, certainly take that on notice, councillor, and I'll have a chat to our crews, and we can see if we can make some improvements in that respect.
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just in response to that, through you, the Mayor, to Manager, in regards to the pipes and that under the driveways that the council is referring to, it's their responsibility to clean the pipes or have the pipes cleaned out to a metre. Is it a metre either side of their driveway? But other than that, any wash down or something like that. But totally take your point. We've had conversations around that. The Mayor and I have spoken to a gentleman in Blackbutt, Romeo, in regards to exactly the same thing. It's not happening all the time, but it does happen. But like you say, when it does happen, we'd like to think that while they're there, they'll clean that away. Yep.
Okay. Councillor Duff.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just on in the priority roads, I noticed that Manar Road is on that list. I've had complaints about Manar Road and people saying that they only drive 30 kilometres along that road. It's in a disgusting mess, and I know that it's on that list to go out on our trip. But if it's in this priority program, could I confidently go back to the landholders and the residents along that road and say that it's being done under flood and it will be returned to its original state?
Okay. Manager, thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's correct. It's in the initial submission one, which has been approved for our permanent works. Happy to provide a little bit more detail on what works we're doing on Manar Road so that you can go back and say, well, it's this section and this is the type of works.
Thank you, Manager. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.2, Kingaroy Transformation Project update is at 40. Welcome, Project Manager Meehan.
Yeah, good morning, Mr Mayor. I didn't have a lot in the report this week, and mindful of Council's time today. Basically, just a summary of works for last month. We've obviously completed the asphalt on Kingaroy Street, and we're currently moving into Glendon Street. Our landscaping and our fit-out process is going to start in the next fortnight as well. I think the trees are due to arrive late next week, so we will landscape Kingaroy and Haley Street commencing next week. Also, our surfacing is due to start in mid-June. I'm pleased to announce that will be done by a local contractor, which is great for our region. Along with that, we obviously got some electrical works around the CBD at the moment, and we're continuing along with our Glendon Street reconstruction. Just in relation to, I think most councillors would have seen the roundabout down the road, which the team have done in good time. That's due to be finished in the coming weeks as well. They're on the final stages of concrete works through there, so we're doing them in conjunction at the moment. So, with that, Mr Mayor, apart from that, I thought I'd keep it fairly limited unless there was questions from council.
Thank you, Project Manager. It's recommended that the council note the attached Kingaroy Transformation Project update report for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, seconder Councillor Potter. Speakers? To the vote, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Project Manager. 7.3 Bunya Highway median and roundabout refurbishments at 48, where it is recommended. Well, we have the report there with the recommendation. General Manager, we'll go to you and your staff to give us an overview of the report, if you can. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I'll hand over to Kevin James for this. They're right across this issue.
Thanks, Tim. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I have a report on a project that's for this financial year. It's our Bunya Highway median roundabout refurbishments. So the budget that we have currently is $964,000, and that the scope of work currently includes the Youngman Street medians in Kingaroy, the renewal for the Rogers Roundabout, River Road Roundabout, excuse me, and the roundabout in Wandai. And we've provided some information on the current estimates that we have for each of these three projects. We'll just have a look at that in a bit more detail. Page 52. So we've provided a little bit more of context around the actual cost that we believe the project will be. With River Road Roundabout, it's in the order of $800,000 to do the current scope of works. Youngman Street medians, about $1 million to do the current scope, and Wandai roundabout there, almost about $350,000. So what we find is the current estimates that we've got far exceed the current budget. So seeking some guidance from council as to direction. We have provided a recommendation which is seeking to essentially split the three projects over a number of financial years, with River Road Roundabout for the current budget.
Thank you very much, Manager. Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just a little bit concerned as to how much of these works are actually beautifications and how much are safety issues. And it's a shame that Councillor Shoemaker is not here today to see that I did take notice when she said that we should be looking at the difference between needs and wants. We want some nice looking, or is it if it's a safety concern, I would be happy to listen to that, or if it's broken. But I think there are a lot of places that probably need to have improvements done, rather than, in particular, River Road, because I do travel that quite a bit. I see that works pretty well. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there question there also goes, managers, issues around safety concerns with what have we got? Those three areas? Roundabout River Road, Roundabout Wandai, and median strips Youngman Street. Road safety issues there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not safety issues as such. There are a number of reasons behind the works, primarily the renewals. There was also some reductions in the likes of mowing, for example, so your maintenance costs, and also the entry statements into those towns.
Thank you, Manager. Further discussions? Councillor Jones?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I thought there was discussions around safety in the fact of our staff having to go in and maintain and all that sort of stuff, and the one in the Wandai one in particular with the surface and all that, enabling traffic and everything else to cut across the corners. I thought there was an issue there as well. if I remember correctly. Happy to be corrected what I thought that was, but there was a significant discussion around the safety of our staff having to go in and maintain it, because I thought the idea was to try and plan it out and make sure that there was less maintenance required and less need for the staff to be out in the middle and crossing roads and doing mowing and all that sort of stuff. And again, I thought we had significant discussion, yourself and council, the whole lot of us, in regards to making significant statements on our entry points coming into our region. So hence Wandai, hence the River Road roundabout and all that sort of stuff. So unless our ship has taken a different tact, I thought that's where we were heading and that's what we were considering, and that's, yeah, so I'm happy to be corrected, but yeah, that's what I thought the conversation was about.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henson.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the River Road one on I believe safety and drainage issues there, Councillor Erkins, was considered in that one as well. And again, the entry point into the town. Certainly the Wandai roundabout, there's been a lot of work and a lot of discussion around that, and that's a major one because we have to put our staff in the middle of it. But also with the transport that goes through that and the curbing around the roundabout and in front of the art gallery that's being smashed to bits there, and the design that's been, I believe it's complete, correct me if I'm wrong, Manager Jones, that's been complete to accommodate that so it doesn't get damaged, as well as our designs for these roundabouts are just that, low maintenance. Certainly that one in Wandai, there's been a lot of work and discussion go around that one. And the Youngman Street one, I believe that we're still in talks with business houses down that, and they are happy. And I know there's been an issue, and I've brought it to manager's attention with some of those business houses there being able to come out onto the highway and be able to turn and come to the south from that highway, and that's some work in progress there. That's where you pull out of nutrient ag. You cannot cross the highway, Youngman Street. You have to go down towards the showground entrance and then do a complete 180 degree. And I know we've had this conversation many times before, so there's still some work in that space to do, I believe. So out of those three, I think certainly the two there, with the River Road one in the current budget and the Wandai one in the 22-23 budget, I think they are necessities, yeah. The River Road one, the Youngman Street refurbishment, I think there's some work to do in that one, and would be happy for that to proceed, in the future.
Okay, thank you. We've got lights going off everywhere here, councillors, but anyway, Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, we've discussed the River Road roundabout many times and also the Wandai roundabout, and with the consultation we've had with the Wandai community with regards to the Christmas tree, I actually look forward to that report coming. Is that coming back as a report to council through you, Mr Mayor, or?
Yeah, Mr CEO, thank you.
Thanks, through you, Mayor. So the Community Standing Committee, I believe, the outstanding, we chased down any of the venues that still had outstanding forms, so they're all in, so it should be on the Community Standing Committee list.
Beautiful, thank you, Mr Mayor. And so the Wandai roundabout, I believe, we're nearly shovel ready, as Councillor Shoemaker normally says, which is what we need to be. And the River Road roundabout, this is something that really needs doing, and it will help the entrance coming into Kingaroy, because at the moment that roundabout is not very inviting and you don't want to stay in the town. But I will say that the Youngman Street medium refurbishment, I would be quite happy to discuss that further, because as councillor, I know that's a big discussion with main roads, because I know main roads have the final say in with regards to how those medium strips finish and whether you can turn or not turn. So I think there is further work. So I think, but that is, I suppose that is ready to go if there is no further changes to that. But I'm more than happy to look into that one further and just leave that one out for now.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Duff, you had your light on?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am concerned about the cost, the blowout in cost, and through you, Mr Mayor, the staff have said that there was no safety issues as far as they were concerned with those projects. So I'm just just thinking that with our backlog in reseals and all of those other road issues, that perhaps we should reconsider our priorities and maybe put some of those on hold.
Okay, I'm probably going to move to wrap this one up soon, but Councillor Oakins, did you have anything to add?
I did. Well, with all due respect to councillors who have been there on that discussion, I was not a part of that discussion, so I'm not really familiar with it. I was just looking at what came through, and as I said, to me, $1.3 million is a lot of money to be spending if it is beautification. I would just like to be assured that we're doing it for the right reasons and not just to make it pretty. I'll also be the first to admit that I'm not au fait with where funding comes from for what different project, but I do know that on the way over here, I looked at a footpath in Nanango where someone had fallen over and broken her arm. So I know that there are projects that are needed to be done, and I just want to make sure, as I said previously, that this is a needs to be done and not a wants to be done to make it look pretty in keeping with the other things that have been done.
Thank you, Councillor Oakins. Councillor Henson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, but I'll be just very quick, and I guess a question happy to take on notice. In relation to the Youngman Street one, is there any scope there for Main Roads to put any funding towards that?
General Manager, through you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, there's still discussions to be had with TMR, particularly around the actual concrete curb.
Thank you, Chairman. More lights. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, as far as I'm just looking through you, Mr Mayor, for confirmation. Safety was a discussion in regards to these roundabouts, because we had staff having to go out there, very, very busy roundabouts, both of them. So safety was a concern, councillor. So safety was certainly a concern. And, you know, we're talking about this council, and it was a major part of, and Councillor Duff and the Mayor, the whole lot of us, we all agreed that Wondai needed that. We were talking, and this council's been committed to making our regional towns look more inviting. And I go back to the Tipperary Park. That's the same argument that we're putting forward to try and get something done with Tipperary Park, because it's an entry point into the South Burnett from the Nango. So it all goes hand in hand, but I stand pretty confident. I'm happy with the decisions that I made, because I do think that there's an element of safety that's involved in those roundabouts and the work that we're proposing to do there. So, yeah. And I'm quite happy to leave number 3 out at the moment and have further discussions.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. In light, Mr CEO.
Mayor, just to clarify so that we're all talking about the same thing, the recommendation gives life to number 3's put on hold.
Yeah.
Basically, that's the effect of number 3. Okay. So the medium strips have dropped out of the process until years out. Okay. I'm correct in my... Yep.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
So the people don't get confused. We're asking for more money for the medium strips. So they're out until they go on the future list, and then they just reconsidered at a time.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Council, I've listened carefully to the statements made here this morning, and I've given much consideration to this, including having looked closely at all the infrastructure around Kingaroy in relation to roundabouts and medians. And I'm going to put forward a motion, an alternative motion to the recommendation. If I could, thanks, Bree. So, Bree, if we can take out item 1, please, and make item 2 item 1. Make item 3 item 2. And then item 3, place the River Road roundabout on its future capital works consideration list. Works consideration list. Thanks, Brett. Number 4, scope and cost. median strip renewals on the following council roads, and then you can bullet point these, Bree. Haley Street East, Fisher Street. Okay. They're the only two there. Thanks, Bree. Number 5. Continue to work with DTMR to progress. To progress works. Planning, to progress planning and design for works on Walter Road from the Rogers Drive to the Knight Street intersections. Full stop. I'll now speak, councillors. So, first of all, I'll seek a seconder for that. Do we have a seconder? Seconder? Any seconder? Okay, Councillor Duff. In light of that, I'll speak to the motion. Okay, so my motion is based on the following: that I've listened to what councillors have said in relation to the advanced stage of the Wandi Roundabout, particularly in relation to the community consultation that has happened and the significant amount of work that staff have done in getting the Wandi Roundabout to this stage. I've also listened to previous discussions about the problematic issues with trucks turning right off Scott Street into Haley Street, and I know there has been a rollover of a truck there based on the camber of the road on the corner of McKell Park. So I certainly feel that the staff have articulated safety concerns with the Wandi Roundabout sufficiently to warrant that as a traffic safety issue, particularly for heavy vehicles moving through that roundabout. Secondly, I'm comfortable with seeing Youngman Street median refurbishment as something that will be in need of works at some stage into the future, but not at this point in time. My personal viewing of that in recent times indicates to me that the infrastructure is structurally in very good order. The median strips themselves are very sound. They are probably as good as any median strips I have seen anywhere in Kingaroy. But I acknowledge that there are issues with traffic turning right out of Nutrient, and there are also issues with the mowing that happens on the grassed areas on those median strips. So for that reason, I certainly would be proposing that it remains on the future capital works projects list in terms of our forward capital program. Similarly with River Road Roundabout, I've listened to the issues in relation to drainage there, the work that's being done at Reiki Fuel on their surface adjacent to that, and the mowing that's required by staff on the grassed area there, and for that reason would again propose to council that should stay on the future capital works program for future consideration in light of those issues. Fourthly, I would like to see council consider scoping and costing median strip renewals on those two roads, Haley Street East, which is on the eastern side of the completed KTP area. If one is to drive eastward from the intersection between Haley Street and Kingaroy Street, past the Carolee Hotel and the Visitor Information Centre towards Swickers, you will notice that there is significant degradation, if for want of a better word, of the median strip infrastructure. It has gardens and grass there that requires that the staff have to actually close off a lane in the mornings to tend to, the Parks and Garden staff to tend to that mowing and tend to the weeding that takes place in those gardens. In addition to that, the actual concrete in many parts is busted and broken. It is in much worse condition, from my viewing, those medians are in much worse condition than the Youngman Street ones. And I think any visual viewing of that by any person would confirm such. That is an extremely heavily trafficked pathway for many people in Kingaroy, travelling in from Swickers, travelling down from the school at St John's, or just travelling into our KTP area. And I think, quite frankly, that to complement KTP, the structural, the lack of structural soundness of those medians gives rise to that being a priority. Similarly, on Fisher Street, quite frankly, all the median strips on Fisher Street are busted and broken. If you drive up there are broken concrete, there's broken, yellow bollard, things that have been busted and snapped off, there are broken signs. Quite frankly, Fisher Street is one of the busiest residential streets in the South Burnett. Literally hundreds and hundreds of cars go up Fisher Street every day. And, for the good people of Division 4, who have very little in infrastructure, but they pay rates, as every other division does, and have, quite frankly, don't have much in the way of needs, really, because they have one park, a few residential roads, and really probably don't take much expenditure from council's budget at all in Division 4. I think Fisher Street median strips need a renewal and need some work done, because I think they look like something out of the 1950s, quite honestly, that need to be rehabilitated. So I think they should be priorities. Furthermore, when we talk about entry points to town, again, the median strips on Walter Road as one heads into Kingaroy from the roundabout at Rogers Drive. If you come through there and look at those median strips and the traffic island on the left, they are seriously damaged. They look awful. They are unsightly, and certainly I would suggest they are far more unsightly than the River Road roundabout, far more unsightly than the median strips in Youngman Street. And I believe that data would suggest, I'd be surprised, and I'd stand to be corrected, the data would suggest that Walter Road entry into Kingaroy is extremely heavily trafficked, with traffic coming in from that southern end of our region. And it carries a lot of visitor traffic, a lot of tourist traffic, a lot of shopping traffic that comes into our town along that Walter Road area. And I feel that should be a priority of council to escalate that with DTMR and the work that Manager James has done along that area. I would also note that there are many grassed median strips there. Again, the traffic that flows through there, and the staff have to try and mow and tend to the gardens there with high volumes of traffic flowing through. I'd be interested to see the data comparisons between the traffic numbers on Youngman Street as against Walter Road, because having previously had an office on Walter Road, it was just a line of traffic all day, constant line of traffic, and I would love to see the data on the number of cars that go over that Walter Road section on a daily basis. So that's the basis for my motion, and I would now, I suppose, commend that to the committee for further discussion. So do we have further speakers in relation to that? Councillor Henshin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you. Yeah, look, all certainly great. And the first recommendation there's been a lot of work with staff going into them, and I certainly appreciate your 5 points in your recommendation, Mr Mayor, and fully understand and appreciate that. But as Councillor Erkins, we may have to put up with the wrath of people saying it's all happening in Kingaroy again. But I can appreciate and understand, Mr Mayor, and certainly Fisher Street, know it very well, and Haley Street, and there's some big issues in Haley Street. So, we have a lot of work to do, don't we, across this region, and all of those are certainly worthy of your recommendation there. So I'll deliberate for a minute on that, Mr Mayor, but I think you've got some great points there.
Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually agree with you on this particular one, because some of these ones you've mentioned with regards to the Haley Street in front of the Vic Centre, in front of the Pinnett Solos, that really does need work, and those gardens don't always look that great either, and it is falling to pieces a little bit. And with regards to Fisher Street, yeah, because that is quite dangerous on some of those chicanes as well, where cars just don't take any notice of chicanes on roads. Apparently it's not a done thing all the time. So I probably do have to agree with you with some of these ones. With regards to the Rogers Drive to the Knight Street intersection, that you're correct, that is an extremely busy road. And if you're trying to get off Harris Street onto Walter Road, sometimes it's neon impossible. A lot of people end up going various other ways. But look, these are things that probably need doing, and maybe that's something we could look at further down the track into how we're doing that. And I know at one stage previously we did talk about putting parking along that road there to help with the schools and things like that, and different types of bollards, because we had talked about doing pin-up-shaped bollards there. And, you know, as an entrance because of the big pin-up and everything like that. So maybe, you know, this is where we can look at doing something a little bit different in that area as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ekins.
Through you, Mr Mayor. While I'm not overly familiar with Kingaroy roads, I do know that I have on many occasions had to go up Fisher Street. It's very bad. The same with the other one down on Haley Street. But one of the things I want to just point out that on the recommendation that came out, it did say enhancing livability and lifestyle. And while I don't want to take anything away from safety concern of the staff, I'm sure that $1.3 million, you can do a lot of things to make it safer for the staff to be working on those roundabouts. And I think, again, it comes to needs. I say needs to wants, and probably some of these other places maybe do need to have work done on them, where it would be nice to have it done on some of the others to make them look nice. And where Councillor Henson said about people saying things happening in Kingaroy, for me, I can speak to my community and say something needed to be done in Kingaroy because it was a mess, whereas they're making it look nice in Kingaroy. That's what I find it hard to be able to say to my community.
Further speakers, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I almost agree with you, almost. I would like to see 3 go up to 2. The Youngman Street, you've just identified, yeah, we've got a couple of traffic issues, but that's been working for however long that's been in. You identified the median strips as being in reasonably good condition out there. I do have, there is some concerns around that Youngman Street roundabout for me, River Road, whatever it is, Place River Road roundabout. I'd support it if 3 went to 2. That'll be my only change. But as it stands, I won't support that because I believe that the River Road roundabout is above the median strip. So if that was to happen, I'd be happy to support it.
Yeah, happy to swap those around, Bree, if we can flick them from 2 to 3, and so that if staff were to see that as a priority list, I would certainly agree that the River Road roundabout would take precedence over the median strips. So I'm comfortable with that. You comfortable with that, Councillor Duff? We'd swap 2 and 3 around, yeah. Okay. Further speakers before we wrap up? Councillor Henson.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Could I just direct a question at Councillor Erkins? You've mentioned 1.3 million. Where can you clarify where you're getting the 1.3 million for? Because we have a 800,000 for River Road, 1 million, just over $1 million on Youngman Street, and 348 on Wandai Road. Sorry.
I believe that was the figure that was given to us this morning. It was 1.3.
Could we just clarify? Yeah, and certainly for the chamber and for the community, they're a bit hard to see, the numbers on this page, so I can't see them without a spotlight. So, yeah, Manager Sel, could we just clarify those numbers? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor
Yep,
Ricketts.
certainly those 3 projects. So we've got River Road roundabout, our latest estimate is $803,000. Youngman Street medians, $1,067,000. And Wandai roundabout, $348,000.
Yeah, thank you, Manager. So, thank you, Councillor Henson. So we'll take that as corrected. Stand corrected, Councillor Erkins. Thank you. Yeah. So together the 3 are basically 800, 2.2 million in total. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Erkins, I'm not sure, you were suggesting several times 1.3 million, but I'll just clarify again, Councillor Manager Searle, it's 1,067,000 on the Youngman Street, not 1.3.
Yes, 1,067,803, I think that says on the River Road roundabout, and 300,000+ on the Wandai roundabout, correct? Yes, so approximately 2.2 million in total. Yeah.
I wasn't going on what I read, sorry. I wasn't going on, I thought you said something was going over budget, 1.3.
No. Anyway, nonetheless, nonetheless, we'll take that as clarified. Thank you, Councillor Erkins. If there's no further speakers, I'll wrap up by simply committing this to committee for consideration by council and go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, we've got 7.4 now to deal with, which is the Regional Connectivity Program feedback at 89. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if you're happy to
Thanks,
speak.
General. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Council. Just in relation to the Regional Connectivity Program, this was a question on notice from Councillor Shoemaker whether we had received feedback. And I believe Councillor Duff might have asked a question previously whether that project actually aligns to the Regional Connectivity Program. What we did was we had our feedback meeting with the Australian Government the other day in relation to that. I thought I would actually just attach their official feedback so Council can see. Basically, the project is a summary of supplying high-speed dark fibre internet to Nanango and to Kingaroy, which would predominantly come from the state network to Toorong. What that does is basically allow high internet speeds to be distributed through those towns and particularly into those major businesses. So for that, you can, NBN has speeds up to 1 gigabyte a second. With that sort of capability, you could guarantee that to businesses with fibre to the premises. What that also allows to do is to deploy up to 10 gigabyte a second connectivity to businesses, schools, which would basically uplift the entire community's broadband capability. Now, just a summary, and again, mindful of Council's time, the feedback from the department is the project very much aligns to the Regional Connectivity Program. Generally what we'll see is your black spot and towers would normally go to the black spot program. CEO Mark, I think, has normally been traditionally what we've done in that space. The Regional Connectivity Program is anything that uplifts the capability of the internet services there. So whether it's, and particularly in relation to broadband and business and economic and human and social outcomes such as schools, hospitals and businesses, it very much aligns to that. The main feedback from the department was our project application was above satisfactory. It was oversubscribed again as usual. So especially coming into an election, particularly round one didn't have as many applications, but round two was coming into an election was heavily subscribed. We were beaten on criteria by other projects. The main feedback that they gave us was that council should consider doing further analysis or further work to build a stronger case for the benefits to the community, particularly in Nanango and Kingaroy, of what that would do as far as business economics and human and social. That's our main criteria that we use as a council because we're not a rich council that has $5 million to throw as a co-contribution to these sort of projects. We did have a co-contribution put in by Eureka. The other criteria is obviously a co-contribution is a major score. Eureka will go back and have a look at that also to see if the future rounds come up, how they might add additional money to the project from a state funding capability to increase the opportunity for that project. So I just put the feedback there for council. Very much the director from the project was very positive, from the program, sorry, was very, very positive about the project. And sees it has a future in future rounds, but would recommend that council do further work to see how it can build a stronger case, particularly for human, social and economic uplift within Kingaroy and Nanango.
Thank you, General Manager. It's recommended that council note the report for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, seconder. Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Duff.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just wondering whether when we're looking at upgrading to Kingaroy and Nanango to actually get higher speed, that perhaps the assessors of these programs might look more favourably on where we've got limited connectivity at all across our region. Just wanted to just throw that into the mix as a possible consideration.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Yeah, we'll take that on board. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further speakers, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, 7.5, petition investigation, curb and channeling on Catalan Crescent, Kingaroy. So we have a petition where it's recommended that, we at 92. Okay, we have a petition where it's recommended that council note the report in relation to the petition for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder? Seconder, Councillor Henson, thank you. Any speakers? Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I've met with some of these petitioners with regards to Catalan Crescent, and this issue is actually in a lot of places around the South Burnett. With the driveways and vehicles, the height of vehicles. I do have a question on notice coming to the next community standing committee meeting with regards to this as well.
Thank you, councillor. Further speakers? Councillor Erkins.
It's also an issue even in the council car park in Nanango, coming into Scott's car park. Your caravan parking there, but you bring a caravan in there and you bottom out on the parking. But I did see what on that photo what they had put in. Can you tell me what you can do to put in there? Because coming through Nanango, they have, and I think it's a different gutter because I think it's a square gutter, but they've got like a concrete section to it, and then the water runs between the two concrete bit coming up. So is there anything that can be put in there that's less expensive for those residents to allow them to get their vehicles in? Because it's obviously to drive in, but too deep. Through
you, General Manager, options for residents to address the driveway access issue? Because clearly your report here, fact sheet, does identify that it is the responsibility of the resident. Yeah, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's known as a semi-mountable curb, and it's quite typical of a lot of the residential areas that we have. The options for the residents, if they wish to improve that access, is to cut the curb out and have a lower profile, which you see in some of those accesses, or alternatively, as you highlighted, councillor, with the barrier curbs, which are the straight up and down ones, there's an opportunity to either cut that out or to put in a concrete wedge, so to speak, to bridge that barrier. Essentially, they're the two standard type options. You'll see in Catalan Crescent and probably a few other areas around the region where people put timbers or steel plates, bits and pieces, and they're not a standard approved solution.
Thank you, Manager. Just in light of that, would it be possible that we could provide perhaps just a one-page fact sheet for residents who do have this issue to say, well, this is what you can, what meets the standard, what you are able to do? Because I do think we see a number of houses around the region where people have got pipes and timber laying in the gutters, which clearly is in breach of the standards, I would have thought. Perhaps that's a solution, just a suggestion. Your thoughts, General Manager?
Through you, Mayor, just in case I missed it, in that report there's actually the driveway property access fact sheets. So that covers, and it gives the standard drawings. That's all part of the fact sheet, I think, isn't it, Kev?
You can get.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, yeah, thank you, General Manager. So does that give the property owners their options there, Manager? Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, I believe that it's...
Oh, yes, I can see
got
that.
the details on the second page.
It
on
shows
the
the link to the website, doesn't it, where it says
Correct.
Drawings for property accesses can be found on Council's website. So that gives drawings as to options for them. Okay, thank you. That answers the question. Thank you. Anything further, councillors? Okay, let's go to the vote. We have that moved and seconded. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.6, studies undertaken using cementitious materials as part of our risk analysis. It is recommended that council note this report for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, seconder. We have a seconder. Councillor Henson, thank you. Speakers, in relation to the report's fairly clear. I probably would like to thank, first of all, the staff for providing the report. It was an issue that I raised and requested a report in relation to the risk assessment as to silica dust from road materials. Seems that there has been not a lot of studies undertaken in relation to this. I do understand that quartz is a commonly used material that comes from quarries to apply to gravel road surfaces, and that quartz does in fact contain elements of silica. We do know in the construction industry that silica exposure can give rise to serious health issues, particularly in relation to silicosis, which has now become quite recognised by health authorities as a major issue in the construction industry, particularly for those working in stone masonry, stone cutting, for those working in with cementitious materials such as fibro on sophiting of houses in the carpentry trade, and also those working in quarries where they are extracting materials from quarries and creating dust through the extraction process. In light of that, I probably still hold concerns for those people that do live on roads which would have silica content in the upper surfaces of the gravel, and whether or not, if they're out in the yard, they would be breathing in elements of silica. Now, clearly it's not an issue just for our council, it's probably a national issue, certainly a state issue. But to be perfectly honest, I suppose my instinctive duty of care would give rise to be perhaps suggesting that we should actually look into this a little bit further to protect the interests of our residents as to whether or not there's a possibility to take some sampling from dust. Councillor Shoemaker talked about the capacity to be able to collect dust samples and whether that could be actually sent off to a lab to be tested for the silica content in relation to dust that is, floating out over residents. Maybe it wasn't such an issue decades ago where farmers lived on dirt, on gravel roads and tended to build their houses a fair way back. They had fairly long driveways, most farmers. But today we see a number of rural residential properties that have popped up around our region, and many of them are built close to the road. These 5-acre blocks built close to the road, which has gravel surface. So I'm just wondering whether it's a bit of a contemporary issue that we need to look at in light of the way that the land development is now taking place. We have more residents living close to these gravel roads. So certainly not wanting to open up a can of worms, but wanting to perhaps just acknowledge that I do have, I suppose, concerns that we certainly don't want to see anyone breathing in anything that they shouldn't be. But I'll probably hand over now to, through you, Acting General Manager, for your thoughts on that. Certainly correct me if I've made any statements there that are incorrect, because it is a very, obviously, sensitive issue. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. I'll take on board your comments regarding the dust monitoring. You're correct, Councillor Shoemaker was mentioning about those dust monitors when we're discussing the dust suppression trials. So we'll chase those up and we'll do some research as to find out whether we can actually send them off for expert analysis on the, so we could do kill two birds with one stone, Mayor.
Thanks very much. General Manager, if that could be brought as a future item to a future standing committee meeting with a report as to what the options are for dust collection, monitoring and assessment in relation to not just the quantum of dust, but also the content, the silica content within the dust. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I've noted that, and we'll chase it up with that while we're doing that other trial as well.
That'd be much appreciated. Thank you, Acting General Manager. Okay, further speakers on this one? No? Okay. Well, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.7, project prioritisation process, Burt Road and Lanigan Road, and that's at 105, where it's recommended that council note the following report for information. Do we have a mover? Mover for that? Anyone want to move that we note that for information? Yes, Councillor Duff. A seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Okay, speakers? Reports as provided. There's a comprehensive report there. Thank you to Manager Searle and your staff for providing that. Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Can somebody just explain to me, on the project rank, does that mean Burt Road was ranked 34th in order of how we thought the roads were? And Lanigan Road 68?
Thank you, Councillor. Through your Acting General Manager, just the project ranking, clarification as to what that means. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, that's correct. Councillors, Burt Road was 34th and Lanigan's was 68 on the project rankings.
Thank you. And that's an outcome from the application of the project prioritisation tool that I know we've had briefings on from your staff previously.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's correct. And for completeness, we did provide council laws the actual capital upgrade project list, which ranks all of the projects, so 1 down to about 100 plus, and you'll find Lanigan's and Burt Road in that list.
Thank you, Councillor Erkins. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, just wanted to thank those staff for the report. It's I think it's a useful tool that we should use and take on board to so that we're working as a team strategically rather than sometimes, as I believe, making ad hoc decisions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, do we have any further speakers? No? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder, so we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you again, Acting General Manager, to you and your team. It's a great improvement for our process. Okay, 7.8, options for capital costs associated with stormwater drainage in Leopard Court in Kingaroy, which is at 110. Committee, we do have a recommendation there from our officers that the committee recommends to council that council consider option 2 as the preferred option to improve stormwater management in Leopard Court and consider the allocation of $23,000 in the 22-23 budget deliberations for capital works. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter. Second to Councillor Jones. Speakers, Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is done in conjunction with the tree removal, I believe. So the works, I think they've already started these works, haven't they, through you, Mr Mayor? Not through not started the works, but started the planning process, the drawings and everything for this, because we were going to work this in conjunction with removal of the trees, because some of the drainage problem up there was the trees, and if we're removing a couple of those trees, that means it's probably going to be less of an issue. I'm just wondering whether making sure that that's all been taken into account.
Thank you, Councillor Potter. Can I now refer those questions to you through you, Acting General Manager? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I'll just hand over to Kev on that one. But yeah, I believe so. The trees were going to be, well, the trees I think are in the process of getting removed. Then the stormwater pit was additional.
So I can, if I could just quickly update, I can confirm that yes, our Parks and Gardens crew have organised for the trees to be removed. So they have been removed, and the residents up there who were raising the issue with council have expressed their sincere gratitude for the work that was done. So thank you to everyone involved, General Manager O'May. Yeah. So in terms of the drainage, the relationship between the trees, the drainage issue, Manager Searle, thank you.
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor. So this is a work in progress in terms of the design changes that we may seek to to undertake in the stormwater, and there's two options that we're looking at. And once the design is complete, there'll be perhaps a bit clearer as to what the option should be, and with an aim of putting this up to the 22-23 budget consideration.
Thank you, managers. Thank you, councillor. Further speakers? Go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, 7.9, addressing Bunya Mountains at 113. The recommendation is that the committee recommends to council that council send letters to properties in Bunya Mountains precinct having non-standard property address, advising the issue, and to contact council to proceed with the change of the address to Australian standard. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, seconder. Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers? Manager, General Manager, updates, thank you.
Yep, so this originally came through the Bunya Mountains Community Association as part of the Disaster Management Subgroup Committee meeting. Concern was expressed around the I suppose lack of addressing in that area, and how particularly emergency services find people in that times of need. So we've looked at both rural addressing as well as urban addressing as a possible solution. Currently, it seems to be quite ad hoc, not only on Bunya Avenue, but also particularly in that gated community where we don't have consistent address. So we're probably leaning towards urban addressing in that area as a more suitable addressing system. Contacting property owners, etc., as indicated in the report, may be somewhat problematic, but as a first step, perhaps communicating with the property owners through a letter to work through that the issue, and seeing where we land is a recommendation there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manager, for your response in relation to that issue. Do we have further speakers? Go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.10, efficiency of council's claim lodgement and payment systems at 119. It's recommended that council notes this report for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder. Councillor Henson, thank you. Just want to point out in the background, it says there that in terms of the claims process within the RMPC, claims are created monthly for works undertaken on the network and forwarded to DTMR with all relevant documents for approval, with a typical claim containing up to 100 pages of supporting information such as work orders and measure up forms. So clearly a significant amount of work and substantiation documentation has to go with a claim to DTMR. And it was pleasing to see that we're confirming that they are created monthly. So thank you, General Manager and Manager Searle, for that. Any further speakers? We'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, 7.11, detailed statistics regarding Harris Road, Clark and Swenson Road and Edenvale North Road usage. That is at 125, where it is recommended that council note the report as presented for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconded Councillor Henson. Speakers? Manager Darcy, quick overview. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, there was a request received through our last committee meeting just around the statistics of operations around that Harris Road, Clark and Swenson, Edenvale North network on the southeastern side of Kingaroy. So this report is to bring back the data to support those observations and help council be familiar with what that looks like.
Thank you very much for that report, General Manager and Manager. Any questions in relation to the data provided, speakers? No? Okay, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.12, landscaping and other feature structures on council roundabouts at 127. Recommended that council notes the report provided to assist council in making future decisions regarding roundabout infrastructure with a strategic focus throughout the region. Do we have a mover? Yep, Councillor Potter, thank you. A seconder? I'm having trouble getting movers and seconders today. Councillor Henshin, thank you. Okay, speakers. Manager Darcy, would you like to give us a quick overview again? Thank you.
This was once, a comment as well received from a previous meeting, just around the opportunities there are with the infill of roundabouts and what we can do with them. We do have some engineering guidelines that we need to meet around promoting the visibility and safety of road operations around those roundabouts, but there is some space within the infill of those roundabouts where there are opportunities for some landscaping elements or some built elements to be considered as part of that. They do take up a fair footprint of construction and infrastructure to service the road network. So just wanted to put in a bit of a brief report on the considerations that go into considering those items and as to what we actually look for when we go to look at promoting or providing, I should say, infill options for council's consideration in the future.
Thank you very much, Manager. And yeah, there's some really good observations there in terms of adherence to the principles stated in relation to the usage of rocks, stone walls, power supply poles, and other fixed objects in areas where vehicles are likely to run off the road. Signs and lighting poles should be frangible. What does frangible mean, Manager?
Yeah, so frangible is a breakaway system at the base. A lot of the historic, say, timber poles are a classic example. They're pretty much direct buried into the ground. Frangible involves like a welded base plate right at the road, natural surface of the ground. And what they do is just have some bolts associated with two base plates that connect by about 3 or 4 bolts. And basically, when the road users make contact with those, they actually take the post with it, and there is surplus wiring that exists within the pits and within those poles that allow it to go with the vehicle. So it is a road safety measure where you do have items like that within what we call a clear zone or within proximity to a roadway based on a certain speed environment. So obviously the higher the speed, the larger that offset distance is, the lower the speed, you can start to bring that distance back in.
Thank you very much. And of course, there are trees and shrubs, trees and bushes with substantial trunks, and trees and other high landscaping features are notable points to be considered and discourage the passage of pedestrians. So, yeah, some really good observations. Thank you. I would like to also congratulate the Alfred Street car park design team on the they're sort of little traffic island things, aren't they, at the back there, and they're covered in ground cover. I think it's a pig face type plant that gets a beautiful pink flower. But I've noticed that the Parks and Garden staff have to do very little maintenance now that they're established. So they've been a really good, I think they've been a really good example of what ground cover can do to reduce maintenance costs. So, yeah, thank you, Manager Darcy, for the design work on that. Further speakers, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't let this go without just making my stand or my call on this. I have a dream that one day, as like you see in towns like cities like Cairns, where they've just got the beautiful terracotta roundabouts and with the white trim, and you won't see Parks and Gardens having to go across into those roundabouts. And I just think that we could, and I know it's not this, I don't have the support of the chamber, but I think a lot of the community say, why do we put all these flowers and even ground cover in the roundabouts when they could be like a concrete pattern with, like maybe even the council logo in them. And then we spend our money and time in our actual parks where we sometimes don't do as much as we could, I don't think. So I just wanted to declare that is my view, and I think the community, from the feedback I get, share quite a significant amount of the community share my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and that's what the Chamber's for, to share our views. So your turn, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks,
Jones.
Mayor. That
Thank
makes
you.
a very good argument to do Youngman Street River Road roundabout, none of that maintenance and all that, keep that maintenance costs and all that down. So thanks, Council, for bringing that to the attention.
Yeah, yes, it does, and of course the importance of keeping that on our forward program, of course, yeah, for those exact reasons. It's a very good point you both make. We need to assess these things, and this document is about informing us as to what our options are. And yes, we all have our views and opinions on this. I'm probably a little bit more favourable towards green infrastructure, Councillor, and in risk of being called a greenie throughout the region. green infrastructure is something I'm a little bit more favourable to, and I must say the ground cover in Alfred Street Car Park I think is a wonderful demonstration of how effective that can be. But anyway, we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. Councillor Erkins, thank you.
I also have to disagree with Councillor Duff. I think when people drive through town, as you say, the ground cover, there are lots of plantings that you can put that are low maintenance and give colour. But also on parks, you know, kids no longer use parks the way they used to. Families don't use parks the way they used to. So sometimes I think we get fixated on giving parks for kids when really a lot of times they're not being used the way they used to be. Kids are, you know, in the technical world and they're on their iPads or whatever.
Yeah, Wi-Fi connections and all sorts of things have to be considered today, don't they? And I know there's a lot of work happening with Memorial Park and Kingaroy, and I know that's all been taken into consideration. So that's why we do all that very, very hard prep work before we go and do any, before we put the shovels in the ground. So, yeah, thanks very much again, General Manager and Managers. So let's go to the vote on this one. Those in favour, carry unanimously. Thank you all. Okay. We are up to now Stage 2 Wandoi Industrial Estate at 130, and we have that report provided. General Manager, through you, Manager Darcy, we might go to Manager Darcy to provide us with an overview. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There was a request received around what the estimation of cost and associated particularly with the design as well of facilitating two-way operations along Kemp Street. Anyone who's been in that Wandoi Industrial Estate in the last week would note that it's been line marked and signed to support the operations of that estate, with B-doubles being to circuit through there in a clockwise one-way direction. This report is around considering altering elements of that estate where Kemp Street, which is a road that runs up the eastern side of the estate between Old Dip Road and Burrow Street, around trying to modify that to two-way operations. So there's an estimation of cost in the order of about $600,000 and a design figure there as well in the order of about $35,000, due to the fact that there are a number of substandard infrastructure road profile issues through there in order to facilitate that to occur. So just wanted to bring that to the committee today.
Yeah, on behalf of Council, again, thank you, Manager, for the work you've done there and bringing that forward in response to requests from councillors. It's recommended that Council note the report and consider this item in relation to all capital works considerations for the 22-23 budget. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, second to Councillor Potter. Speakers, Councillor Henson, I think first right up speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, this has been talked about before, and a wonderful result already with Stage 1 down in that Wandoi Industrial Estate. And again, when this industrial estate was designed and built, I believe back in the 80s, early 80s, there were no B-doubles in the South Burnett at that time. So, look, staff and design has done a wonderful job there to allow B-doubles, and some of the conversations we've had there has been a little challenging, but with the signage and with the line marking now gives a lot better direction. And I think across the entire South Burnett, we really want to take on board signage. Signage is important today. Not many people seem to read too much. They might look at things, although some people don't even look too much either. But yeah, signage is an extremely important part. And with a new development in that industrial estate, well, not new development, but refurbishment of that, it's been a wonderful result down there, and would like to see that in the not too distant future, and with the rising costs of everything, that Stage 2 in some shape or form can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor Henson that Stage 2 I'd like to see it be considered to go ahead, and I'd like to see us progress the design of Stage 2 using the internal resources of staff. So I'm just wondering if it's possible to add that to the actual recommendation, that we progress the design of Stage 2.
Okay, yeah, we could certainly consider that as including an element that says that Council commits to progress the design for Stage 2, Bree, and we'd have to go back to Councillor Henson and Potter. Yeah, Council note the report, council and council. Oh, sorry, and that the committee recommend, that'll have to be a recommendation, won't it, Mr CEO? We might have to do this in two parts, I think. Yeah, let's do this in two parts, councillor. Let's backspace that just to the 22-23 budget. I think let's get this one done first, and then we can come across to you for perhaps a foreshadowed motion, eh? If we, for want of a better term, we'll take your motion shortly. Okay, so let's look at this here. It's recommended that we note the report and consider this in the capital works considerations for the 22-23 budget. Yeah, we're comfortable with that? Yep. Councillor Henson to wrap up. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, staff. Okay, back to you, Councillor Duff, in relation to design. Thank you.
That the committee recommend that the design, the staff progress the design of stage 2 of the Wandai Industrial Estate.
Very good.
I was just going to.
Yes.
With the design of stage 2 of the Wandai Industrial Estate.
Okay, we'll just get that up on screen and get you to confirm such. Okay.
I was going to say utilising internal resources like internal design team rather than going out to. Do I need to add that, or is that?
Look, you may complicate the resolution. I think
Okay,
what we'll
right.
do is, before we seek a seconder on that, we'll get some advice from the acting general manager through you in relation to the ability to use our internal team to do the design work.
Through you, Mayor, I'll hand over to James, but at this point in time, our capacity is limited. If we've got the ability at the point in time, yes. We can't actually give 100% guarantee that we can do it internally.
If General Manager Jarvis, if council, can I ask a question before I seek a second on this? If council is to, pursuant to the design work, if council is then to commit to the project as a capital works project, it is my understanding that the design costs can then be capitalised where council resolves that commitment. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, that is correct. Within a limited amount of time, I think it's within 2 years, I think maximum, that the construction starts.
Yes. Manager Darcy, please feel free to clarify if that 2 years we can capitalise your design costs.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, yeah, it's around the supporting the delivery of the works, and there is a commitment from council to go and physically deliver the works on the ground. If it's something that there's a resolution in place where that work is then withdrawn, the work associated with the design needs to be transferred back across into an operational budget.
Thank you very much, General Manager. Thank you, Manager Darcy. It's very clear that costs would be capitalised as part of the capital project budget. They would not form part of our operating budget and deficit, where council commits within a reasonable time. I think we said 2 years to undertake the project. Should we not do that, then that would then go back in as operational costs. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that being the case, you're happy with that, Councillor Duff, as your motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, unless, do I need to put a timeline on that with regards to the design?
You certainly could do, in consultation with Manager Darcy. A timeframe, Manager Darcy, you think would be suitable? What are your thoughts?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the design capacity as presented with the program that was provided to councillors last week was around acknowledging that there were projects beyond our capacity next financial year in the 12-month window with the look ahead. Should there be a desire to proceed with this, we could look at it through either extending that timeline out to the following 12 months and having the ability to deliver on that within a finite amount of time within the following financial, unless there is some other form of how council would like to action this.
Thank you. I think it's pretty clear here. If we want this expedited, it will require external resources, funded at this stage, hopefully as capital. And I think Manager Darcy has put there in the order of $35,000. in his report. Should you want to express a desire not to fund that design cost, then it would obviously have to be picked up with internal resources, which would mean it could take perhaps 12 months or more to have the design done. So I guess you've got some options there in terms of your motion, councillor.
Well, through you, Mr Mayor, I think should be a priority of council. I know that there's a lot of concern with the businesses in the industrial estate with the current situation, and I've Deputy Mayor Jones and I met down there with some of the concerned businesses, and we did indicate that we were going to try and progress stage 2.
Resolution with your motion as it stands.
Well, I just think that I'd like to see it within the sooner rather than later. So just
Okay.
a timeline around what's deliverable.
So, Manager, let's clarify. If we're able to access external resources to complete the design work, would that be something that could be achieved? What would your thoughts there be in terms of possible timeframe?
Yeah, certainly, Mr Mayor. If there's an ability to engage external resources and that timeline slides forward considerably, we would estimate that there'd be probably a 3 to 4 month window, depending on consultant availability, to commence that design as well. They're going through an influx of interest as well right now, as everyone can appreciate. So we need to work with those external agencies at the same time, but based on knowledge of that at this point, probably 3 to 4 month window.
Thank you, Manager. June, July, August, September. Councillor Duff, staff progress with the design of stage 2 of the industrial estate with a view to completing such by 30 September, subject to availability of external resources.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm happy with that wording, and I'm happy to, if it can be capitalised, to use external.
Thank you, Councillor.
Resources.
Okay, so that now clarifies the motion. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Any seconder? Councillor Erkins, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Duff, you can speak to your motion, then we'll go to other councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, as I said, I think there's a real concern with the current situation, particularly down the bottom with the congestion and having to go around Bunya Avenue and down where they could go straight along Kemp Street. There's concerns with one particular business is worried about losing his they actually have an inspection station there. There's now difficulty with manoeuvrability of the vehicles having to turn rather than go straight along Kemp Street. So I've had also, I know that Parkside's got concerns also with some of their forklift movements and different movements. So just wanting to flag that it is an issue down there for the businesses.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just want to happy for this to go ahead, noting that we listening to the staff that we have a huge amount of design works and that we're expecting to be put out so that we can progress with certain projects. I just want to make sure that we are not. I just want to make sure for my own personal, we're not committing to do this in the next 2 years and try and capitalise it, because I'm aware of what's coming in the budget. We've got a roads budget discussion on Friday, capital works, all that sort of stuff. So I just want a clarification and just make sure that we're definitely not committing, because of the conversation that's just been had. If we do it in 2 years, it can be capitalised and all that, this money. So just because we're doing the design doesn't commit, depending on budgetary needs and discussions, we're not going to definitely do it under any circumstances.
I think Mr. CEO will correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion simply commits to, simply recommends to council that council will consider at its next ordinary meeting committing to applying resources to the design works only at this stage. Should the project not proceed, then clearly council will have to accept that those costs will be operational costs, so they will be expensed on our income and expenditure statement. Should, however, council then proceed within 2 years, they could be capitalised under that situation. So I think I can confirm, Councillor Duff, that this motion certainly doesn't commit council to completing the project within 2 years. Absolutely not. That would be a very separate matter for council to consider as part of its capital budget program. Yeah. Okay. Mr CEO, any corrections to that? You happy with that? Thank you. Councillor Henshin.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yeah, look, great project, of course, and as Councillor Jones has expressed, I guess the one thing we want to be also very cautious and wary of is, and appreciate that to be able to progress with the design of that and be source it externally to do that, which may take time and effort, but I would be cautious as well as to what else might suffer in the event that we progress this up the ladder. That would be my concern, that we may have other projects, and I certainly do not want, I know we have other projects that I think we've done some wonderful work down there, without a doubt, but I would hate to see anything else suffer with the propulsion of this up the ladder when there's some serious work. Councillor Erkins, okay?
Yes.
There's some serious work and a lot of work to do in this space. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, further speakers? All right, well, let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Now, we'll just note that Councillor Erkins had to leave. She's got my disease, a tickle on the throat. Okay, know how that feels. Now, we're on to 714, Black Spot Funding Program 2324 at 131. Introductory overview, thank you. Through you, Acting General Manager to Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to hand to James for this. He's the subject matter expert, if that's all right.
Thanks, Tim. So this report to council's around the Black Spot Funding Program for 23-24. So this is managed through the federal government, and from the data that we've received through the state around known safety concerns due to accidents and the reports that go through our colleagues at QBS, that web crash system has provided us with some statistics, in particular to the 2 dot points that are on this report. The first one being Appin Street and Cairn Street Cairn Street and Anango. That is the heavy vehicle bypass intersection, where it does a 90-degree turn with the movements in bypassing the Nanango CBD. And the second one was Haley Street between Youngman Street and Burnett Street. So that's goes a fair distance, but what we observed through that data was around the fact that there was just a continual series of accidents that happened all the way up to the Burnett Street intersection, pretty much where it goes from single lane, single carriageway to where we've got those centre medians up near the church there at the Burnett Street intersection. So particularly around that area, some observed issues, and just wanted to flag this for council's nomination for the future program.
Thank you, Manager. Manager, just in terms of the council nominate projects, do we need to specify the projects for you? I know I've certainly got some projects I'd like to put forward for consideration. Yeah. Do we need to clarify that in the for you so that you know which projects to progress?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, it's around the data that's been observed through the web crash system. So we've got, I think we've got about 7 accidents that have occurred in the vicinity of the Appin Street, West and Cairn Street intersection. And I think we had about 6 accidents along that stretch of Haley Street between Youngman and Burnett Street. So given that they're the statistics that are in excess of 5, they're the ones that have a higher chance of getting funding, and we believe that they're the best areas to target our energy and time into to have the greatest chance of getting a return on those values. So we'd just like to bring it to council to help move these projects forward. They're due in early to mid-July, so seeking to get clarification on where we think our money and time is best invested right now.
Thank you, Manager. Yeah, I do note that it's one where the low-cost, high-benefit improvements to the road network is clearly a part of the criteria, some of the projects may be high cost, high benefit projects, which leads me to suggest that Mears Road, Kingaroy, the intersection with West Street, the whole Mears Road issue there. I know we have residents out there who have reported on multiple occasions ongoing accidents on Mears Road. Is it something that you're probably keen to seek your advice around? Have we considered it in Blackbutt, or should we be considering it in Blackbutt as well? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, I can confidently say that we did look at Mears Road straight up, and there was one statistic on Mears Road around where the S-bend on the gravel road is pretty close proximity to where the rail trail intersects.
Yes, and I think that's probably a reflection of the fact that it's the process by which the statistics are recorded, because I know on my phone I have got multiple photos of accidents on Mears Road since I've been elected as mayor, that coming from a resident there who has taken photos and rung the police on many occasions. I think her observation to me was there's almost a prang there every month now. The last one was they took on a gum tree and ended up, the car was pretty well written off. So I think the stats, though, don't necessarily reflect that unless the police do a report. Would that be correct?
Yeah, the system itself, Mr Mayor, is through the reporting channels of the police. That then works its way back through the road safety branch of Department of Transport and Main Roads, and they are the ones that liaise directly with the federal government around supporting what projects do and don't get up. Yeah, it's certainly beyond what we do at a local level. It is something that's considered from far above.
So in light of the lack of supporting data with only one reported accident there, that would make it very challenging to get a Guernsey for Mears Road. Okay, thank you. All right, well, we have the recommendation there, Council. We nominate projects. We recommend to Council nominate projects that address federal government's road safety criteria and investigate solutions for locations on the South Bennett Road network. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, a seconder? No one wants to put their hand up today. Councillor Henshin, thank you. Okay, speakers? Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Manager. Okay, we're up to 7:15. The TIDS, local roads, TIDS Lars nominations, 134. And we do have a recommendation there in front of us, but we'll start with you. Thank you, Manager Darcy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report is around the consideration of additional Lars routes for consideration at the Regional Road Group. We have already a definite network that exists through our region, and what we are looking at doing is trying to bring in further routes that are supported through the criteria of the Regional Road Group. This report takes on board an assessment of those routes across the region based on function and road usage, as well as some of the principles of what the Regional Road Group is all about, where we're trying to get those boundary conditions correct with other councils, taking on board the provision of emergency responses, and bringing a report back to council on what those additional roads look like, and as well as a supporting map to help illustrate what the assessment has concluded with. So we are looking at bringing this to the next RRTG Tech Committee meeting. All the member councils are currently doing the same process right now, but that will then need to get endorsed by the actual RRTG itself in a couple of months' time. So
Yes.
we wanted to bring back a report for council's viewing before looking to advance this to the RRTG.
Manager, just in terms of, before we move to the recommendation, there have been, I suppose, in light of that, and I certainly acknowledge and understand Old Desk Road to Romeo is certainly very supportive of that. Not so sure about the other four roads, not as knowledgeable on those, although I do know we had issues at Wilson's Road through the periods of flooding. The roads that I'm concerned about, hearing from residents, are low, probably considered potentially low priority roads by DTMR, because they are their roads, are Bowie Road, the single lane section of Bowie Road, the single lane section at Kingaroy Barkers Road, Frick Road, and the single lane section at Kingaroy Burrendown Road. They're three single seals that I understand are highly trafficked. They are all three are state controlled. Are they able to be considered as, under this program, as LARS roads, those three roads?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, they are LARS roads. They are TMR state-controlled LARS roads. You correctly identified that they are. This report is around the council interaction with those lower order state-controlled roads, where we get a similar appreciation by people who drive the network, where we've got our higher order council roads, and there's a map on the, sorry, not a map, but a figure on the first page of the report, just highlighting around how the higher order council roads and the lower order state controlled roads really overlap very similarly in a level of service. And, excuse me, the lower order state controlled network is one that is very well known in our region with the examples that you provided. It is something that we do campaign with TMR about. And we have done works on those roads or some of those main roads in the past around trying to elevate that level of service and safety in particular. So it is an ongoing challenge because it does have a finite amount of money, and the money that is available to the region is competing with the higher order council roads at the same time. So happy to continue those discussions from a technical point of view, Mr Mayor. But it is something that needs to be considered broadly in competing with the council roads at the same time for the projects that get delivered in the South Burnett.
Yes, thank you. I'm just looking at, for example, at Wilson's Road, 11.6 kilometres. I know that Bowie Road's around approximately 2. I think the King Barkers section's around approximately 2, and Kingaroy Burrendown's probably a similar sort of distance there, between 2 to 2.5 kilometres stretches of road there that seem to be quite problematic. So I'd probably just want to put that out to councillors to turn their minds to in consideration of this list, and probably yield to greater knowledge in this space. But okay, well, let's have a discussion around this. Councillor Erkins.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the Barkers Creek road, that carries a lot of people from that side into Kingaroy too. That's a very bad road with just a single. Is that one? Is that on?
Yeah, that's not on this list, but again, one that, as I said,
okay.
yeah, we think highly trafficked. Yeah. Other conversation points before we move to getting a motion on the table. Councillor Duff.
So through you, Mr Mayor, I think what Manager Darcy was saying was that those are already LARS roads. These are trying to put additional LARS roads on. So over on the maps on the back, there's already by those roads you've said are already on that LARS list.
Oh, okay. So these 5 roads aren't LARS roads. Oh, they're being added. I stand corrected. Okay. So the priorities that we put forward to the RRTG, will that be determined at some stage in the future in terms of when we go to seek funding through the RRTG from the TIDS allocation?
Yeah,
We'll get a chance to revisit that before we go to the RRTG?
Yeah, that's correct,
Correct.
Mr Mayor.
Okay,
That'll be a process in a few months' time.
I've clearly jumped the gun. Thank you very much.
That's
Okay,
understandable.
all right, I'll stop there. Thank you. Okay, so we have the recommendation as presented there for those 5 roads. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, second Councillor Potter. I'll stop talking and go to the vote unless there's anyone else. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Okay, we're on to 8.1. We have the Local Disaster Management Portfolio Report at 141. Where I'd suggest that we take it as read in light of the fact that we haven't we actually have got Councillor Potter to provide this. Would you like to read the report, or are you happy to take it as read, Councillor Potter?
We can take this as read, thank you, Mr Mayor,
Okay.
in light that we actually have to leave very shortly to go to Cherbourg.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Potter, very generous of you, thank you. So Recommended Councillor Potter's local disaster management portfolio report to council be received for information. We have a mover from Councillor Potter, seconded from Councillor Henson. Any questions? Speakers? No, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 8.2, water and wastewater portfolio report at 143. As presented, be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, seconded Councillor Duff. Speakers? To the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 9.1, 148. We have 5 questions on notice to which responses are provided, and it is recommended that the responses to the questions raised be received and noted. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, seconded Councillor Jones. Councillors, any speakers in relation to the responses before we go to the vote? No? Okay. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now call the meeting to a close at 9:57 a.m. Thank you all for your engagement today.